Hey guys, college football update, week 6. As always, an immense amount of stuff to cover. Let's start with Notre Dame and move on from there. Notre Dame beats Bowling Green 52 to nothing. I'll tell you, when this game started, I really thought Notre Dame might be able to score 70 or maybe even 80 points. I mean, if they didn't take, the pedal off the gas. And I'll tell you, I don't even know that they did necessarily. I mean, it kind of, obviously in the third quarter, they take Ian Book out and bring in Phil Jurkovic. And he had a pretty good game, by the way, but I don't know that that's really saying anything. I don't really even know that this win is really saying anything, to be honest. I mean, this to me was similar to playing an extremely bad FCS school. That's how bad Bowling Green is. I've mentioned in the past that I think UMass is perhaps the worst college football team in the nation. They did beat Akron last week, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Akron is worse. I don't know. Obviously, they went head to head, so Akron proved that maybe they are worse. But I've seen UMass, and they're just awful, and certainly read up on them, and there's just not a lot going on there. But Bowling Green was equally as bad. I mean, there's just nothing. I mean, there's nothing there. At the beginning of the season, I talked about how Bowling Green was going to hate the fact that they hired Scott Leffler. I get it. During the entire broadcast, there was a lot of people, giving forgiveness to Scott Leffler. The announcers are giving forgiveness to Rico and Flutie. We're giving forgiveness to Scott Leffler for not having, a full, team to play with. These aren't his players and everything else. Say that to all the other first team coaches, and they're figuring it out. I don't care if you only have 57 players. You're in the MAC. You're playing some, and I'm not coming down on the MAC, by the way, but there are some teams in the MAC that you should be able to at least be competitive with. Losing 62 to 20 to Kent State the week before, I wouldn't call that competitive. I would say that you're just a really, really bad team. They're going to continue to be. So again, I don't know that that's really saying much. It was just good practice, I think, for Notre Dame leading into Southern Cal week. The one thing I will say about Southern Cal, because I'd rather talk about that, Southern Cal has incredible athletes. They have very, very good wide receivers. Have a couple of guys at the running back position that are good. I would say their quarterback is good. It's interesting because I think they're on their third string quarterback now, and he's still pretty good because it's Southern Cal, and they've always had decent obviously I say decent, very, very good quarterback play actually over the past, I don't know, 15 years. Probably even longer than that, I guess. But over the past 15 years, they've been deep at that position, very deep. Just look at all the guys that have gone to the NFL. So, am I a little nervous about that and Southern Cal's wide receivers against Notre Dame's corners? Yes, although you still got to be able to get the ball off, and I feel like Notre Dame's defensive line is going to be too much for Southern Cal to handle. I do think Notre Dame is going to cover. I'm saying it. I don't know. Maybe they won't, and maybe they'll lose. I hope not, but I do think the defensive line is going to be able to win the day for Notre Dame. So we'll see what happens. Exciting to see. Great rivalry game, obviously, and I always love it when they have the chance to play, especially at night at Notre Dame Stadium. It's very exciting for me. Moving on to some other games, so I want to talk about keeping the American Conference for a sec here. Let's talk about Temple and East Carolina. Temple was actually able to win the game. I think it was 27-13, 27-14, somewhere in that neighborhood. They were able to beat East Carolina. Temple's now 4-1. They've got wins against Maryland and Georgia Tech. I get it. Neither one of those is very good teams, but let's just take a historical perspective for a second here. 20 years ago, Maryland got kicked out of the Big East because they were Temple got kicked out of the Big East because they were uncompetitive. All right, keep that in mind. I mean, understand what I'm saying here. They weren't competitive at all in conference play, so they got booted out of the conference. Now they're 4-1. I don't know why this isn't talked about more. I mean, the fact that they've been able to turn this around, and the fact that they continue to do it with a different coach almost every year or every 2 or 3 years, it's absolutely astounding to me how they've been able to keep this going. And I think it has a lot to do with the recruiting base. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that Rutgers is awful. Pitt, for some reason, is not getting a lot of these guys, or they don't want these guys. I don't know. I'm not sure what's happening, but it's exciting to see it. I love to see that Temple is not a laughingstock anymore. That kind of shouldn't be. It's a pretty fertile recruiting ground. I also wanted to say I think East Carolina they're playing better than their record would indicate. And I'm going to say, I don't know that they're going to have a ton of wins throughout the year. They might get another 2, maybe 3. They could have bowl eligibility. And boy, wouldn't that be amazing to be able to get bowl eligibility in Mike Houston's first year there. I mean, this is what happens when you actually have a head coach that knows what he's doing. So good job, East Carolina, finally getting rid of Scotty Montgomery, bringing in a coach from James Madison who knows what he's doing. This is the result. All right, it's not that hard. Again, staying. Oh, last thing I'll say about Temple, they're actually playing Memphis, SMU, and UCF over the next 3 weeks. I mean, that's it right there, right? I mean, that decides the conference. So it's going to be great to see what happens there. Cincinnati beating UCF 27-24, fantastic. I mean, I'm tired of UCF. I get it. Other people may not be. I totally am. If UCF played in any other conference that you had to play a difficult team week in, week out, physical team week in, week out, you would not be able to win, 20-something games in a row. Sorry, just wouldn't happen. I mean, I'm tired of it. Very happy that debate is over. Good job, Cincinnati. Way to win. SMU, last week, I said that I was going to talk about SMU a little bit, and I think I actually said they were ranked for the first time since 1986. I think it's 1989, actually. I think that's what it is, but regardless, who cares? I mean, what's different? They're ranked 21st this week. Incredible win against Tulsa. I was loving it. I was totally watching it. Went into triple overtime. Just fantastic. Tulsa, thankfully for all the SMU fans, if there are any, nobody could kick the ball for Tulsa, so SMU was able to pull out the win. But, just fantastic. I mean, what I would love to see is fans actually come back to SMU. Look, this place was probably one of the biggest cheaters in college football. I understand that. It's redemption time, okay? I mean, let's kind of forgive it, try to bury it. Look, they play in a 32,000-seat stadium named after a president who's not even a very good president, Gerald Ford. I realize I think he went there. That's why they named the stadium after him. But come on. I mean, that's like, the William Henry Harrison Stadium or something. It's just awful. So, give him a break. SMU, good job. Way to go. Ranked 21st. I think that's fantastic. I want to talk about some teams who are doing well right now. Do I think they're going to continue to keep it up? So let's talk through that. Penn State. Got some difficult games ahead, Iowa, Michigan, and Michigan State over the next few weeks. I think Penn State's going to be able to really kind of keep this thing rolling. I don't know they're going to be able to win all of those games, but I think they're going to be able to keep it rolling for a period of time. They also play Ohio State. This is interesting. I mean, this is going to be very interesting. I think that Penn State is the second best team in the conference. Wisconsin's, of course, right there, so we'll see what happens. But they're teetering on second or third. I definitely think Michigan is not. Obviously, they showed that against Wisconsin. So, but yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. Minnesota is currently 5-0. They play Nebraska this weekend. I do think they're going to lose to Nebraska. They also play Penn State, Iowa, and Wisconsin. I think Minnesota is going to get to 8 wins. I think it's a classic Minnesota, scenario where they get to, 8 wins, maybe 9, but I'd be surprised. I think they're going to stay at 8. Great season for Minnesota. Nothing wrong with that. They're kind of winning with smoke and mirrors a little bit. If you look at their schedule, it's not like they're blowing teams out. I get it. A win's a win. I understand. But eventually, that's going to come to bite you. I think it's going to start biting them a little bit once they start getting into this harder schedule. Arizona, the 4-1 right now. Give them a lot of credit for that. But this second half of their schedule, much more difficult. I think Arizona's probably going to get to 6 wins, kind of a classic Arizona squad. Again, nothing wrong with that. I just do not see them being able to keep it up. But, great win this past weekend against Colorado. And Colorado's a heck of a lot better than I thought they would be, to be honest. But although I thought, and you guys have heard me say this over time, I thought Mike McIntyre at Colorado was a good coach. I understand why they fired him, but it's not like he didn't recruit some decent players in there. And I think this, we're seeing it right now. This is kind of the fruits of years of decent recruiting, at least for Colorado. Pitt's 4-2. I think Pitt's going to get to eight wins. I do. If you look at their schedule, not really that challenging, to be honest. I mean, I think they can get to 8. I mean, they could be a potential 9. In my mind, that is a team that could potentially, of the ones I'm talking about, could potentially get to 9 without too much of an issue. I mean, we could look at Wake as well. I talked about them last week. Of course, they could also do that too. But, it's interesting with Pitt. Not a lot of people are talking about him, but I think that was a really great win against Duke this past weekend. So, and that's a sleepy place to play, especially at night. It was just so depressing. I mean, it's just awful. So, it's amazing. Duke has been pretty good and still no fans. It's just, it's got to be challenging. So, but yeah, I do think Pitt's going to be able to, maybe 8 or 9. UCLA, I'll tell you, I looked at their schedule. I would not be shocked if UCLA does not win another game. And I got to tell you, if they're 1-11, they were 3-9 last year. I think they were 3-9, maybe 4-8. And if they're 1-11 this year, what do you do? I mean, you got to keep Chip Kelly because his buyout is too much, but You married the wrong dude. Let me tell you. I mean, this is not going to work. If you look at his past few stops, he's not winning. He was handed an Oregon program. Here you go. Similar to Ryan Day, by the way. I would love to see what Ryan Day could do at a school like Eastern Michigan. I'd love to talk about Eastern Michigan, but I'd love to see what he could do there. Just a program that continually loses. Can you win 5 or 6 games? I don't know. And we probably never will because he was handed a perfect gift. Okay? I'm not saying Ohio State isn't doing great. They are. But to me, him and Chip Kelly, very, very similar. Handed a program. They're running with it. They're having success. I would love to see what he's able to do if that were not to be the case. But, again, maybe we'll never know, or maybe we'll know 10 years from now, and it'll be a Chip Kelly situation. So, anyway, all right, guys, enjoy the games this weekend.